weirdos. Welcome to Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange and unusual, spooky and skeptical, unexpected and extraterrestrial, and everything in between. Every time we get together, we chat about something weird. And today, we've got a collection of some of our weirdest stories yet. We've been sent to a small basement office in the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It is cramped, it's messy, and it weirdly smells faintly of Morley cigarettes. Interesting. Today is an X-FILES-TRAVAGANZA. We are celebrating a show that we all love very dearly, a show that opened our eyes to the impossible and reminded us that the truth is out there, if only there are more people like us in the world to look for it. So grab your shoulder-padded suit jacket, mark your windows with an X, and tell Skinner where we're going in case we don't make it back. My name is Ashley, and luckily I'm not alone today. I've got my lone gunman to keep me company. Starting off strong with my best friend and co-host, Lauren Ogle.
Hello, weirdos. Reporting for duty. Let's go.
She's ready,
We're
bitch.
ready. Let's go.
Oh, it's your hat.
It's my little hat, alien.
When you pulled it out earlier, I thought it was a little pillow, but it's your hat that I got
can use
you.
it as a pillow.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so cute. And joining us for this very special trip to the 90s, as usual for our spooky season celebrations, the very funny, extremely talented Billy Roach.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Billy.
I'm so glad to be here.
We're always happy to have you here. Also, Billy, you designed our Halloween t-shirts and they fucking rule.
They're so good.
I did. Yeah, they look great. They came out really good.
They came out
so good. I
Yeah.
have one ordered now, and I feel like I've seen a couple of other orders go through. So listeners are ready.
Okay. I'm ready to see them in the wild.
Billy always joins us for our October seasonal episodes, and why wouldn't he? He's a monster man. He's clearly a fan of the X-Files. Look at your setup. Clearly.
Your business casual wear is divine. You are just ready to go. The suit, the glasses, the sign in the back. We're here for it. You're nailing it.
You've got your own little Mulder office
Yeah.
there.
This is my own little corner of the apartment where I get banished to look at spooky things.
Yeah. I know how that feels. I'm in my office, which everything that's in my office used to be just the decor in our one-bedroom apartment. And then we moved to Illinois. Joe was like, I don't know, maybe put that in your own space. And I was like,
Yeah, maybe just have that in the corner over here. I know. I finally was able to make my own space because we moved. I used to have to use Alex's desk, and he was, of course, like, I'm terrified of everything. So now I can have a spooky bat and some little ghostly pillows. I know. He's up. He's up and he's ready.
I love that.
So we can be spooky. Got my own desk. I'm looking at a poltergeist poster in front of me and a little Ouija board art piece that Ashley made me. It's good stuff.
Well, we're clearly all very strange people. And I do think that X-Files may have at least had a little bit to do with that. You guys, tell me, Billy, you go first. Tell me your relationship with the X-Files.
I mean, it started pretty early. I want to say it was in season 1. I don't know if it was a pilot for sure, but you get word of mouth, and it's just like weird things that I was really interested in, like the UFO and like alien conspiracy stuff. I was always like, anytime I was like, oh, what? And I would perk up and kind of listen to it. So it just kind of became like a regular part of my life. Like every week I couldn't wait for the new episodes. Then the movie came out and I'm like, they're doing a movie. And I was there opening weekend. It was just like, yeah, I ate up like every episode. And then I fell off a little bit whenever David Duchovny went away, but whatever.
Listen, who fucking didn't? If you tell me that you watched the last 2 seasons as faithfully and religiously as you watched the first 8, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't either.
Lauren, did you watch it growing up?
I did, but I had to in secret because I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before. My spookiness always had to be at sleepovers and at friends' houses because my parents barely let us watch Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon.
Oh.
So I had that household. So I secretly did have to watch it, but it was usually like something I would watch at, like, I had two best friends who were allowed to do whatever, and we would watch it there. And I remember I was trying to look it up like quickly just a second ago. I remember an episode from season 1. Like, I know it was early on, where a guy could like stretch and squeeze through small spaces. It's called
Yes.
Squeeze, isn't it?
Squeeze,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I think I saw that. I was like, I remember being like a little traumatized by that, but like traumatized in a way of like, I have to keep watching this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to see more. And so then I was hooked and I found every excuse to watch it. And like when we would have babysitters, I'd be like, my parents let me watch X-Files all the time. And so I watched a lot of it, but I can't claim to have watched every single episode because I really had to pick and choose, which means I just have to have a rewatch now that I'm an adult who can do what she wants.
And I can do what I want and I have an adult money.
Do whatever you want.
You know, I didn't watch it growing up, really. My parents sometimes did, and I would watch with them. But it wasn't something that I like tuned into every week. It wasn't until Netflix. I would rent the DVDs. This was long before streaming. And I remember just being like, I am obsessed with David Duchovny. I'm obsessed with aliens. Why have I never actually watched the X-Files? So I remember renting the DVDs and, you know, patiently awaiting for my next DVD to arrive so that I could watch every episode. And now I've seen every episode probably like 4 times.
I was going to say, now I feel like you're
So-
the biggest super fan of all time.
Huge.
I love that it was being huge. I love that it was being mailed the Netflix DVD. Like, that is commitment like never before. I really love that for you.
Yeah, you're like,
you.
I'm almost done with disc 2. I got to get disc 3 in the mail.
I gotta make sure they know.
Yeah.
Calling Netflix, like, I swear to you, it's on the way. Please just send the next disc. I have to know what happens to my girl Scully. I also, you know, it was a very quick obsession. Like, as soon as I started watching, I then ended up getting things like this, the X-Files Book of the Unexplained Volumes 1 and 2. Look at this enormous thing.
It's so
and to
big.
the point where, like, it doesn't even, it's barely a book anymore. Whole sections of it are falling apart.
It's been thoroughly
So, yeah.
loved.
Yeah, I was
It's
like,
been
that's just
thoroughly
loved.
Yeah.
loved.
Oh.
So it means a lot to all of us.
Yeah, you are an X-Files queen.
What's cool about the X-Files is that a lot of people love the X-Files that weren't weird and into aliens because it was a genuinely good show.
Really good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the storylines were great. Obviously the lead characters were I've never seen chemistry like that between two lead characters in a television show before or since. Like, it's insane. You can cut it with a knife. Obviously there's the Monster of the Week episodes, which can get pretty wacky, and like, we love them.
Yeah.
Clearly. But I, you know, even, you know, the viewing public would put up with a sucker monster in the sewer to get more
That's right.
Scully Mulder drama.
That is right.
I mean, not a lot of shows that start with like that freak of the week formula tend to not stick with it because it doesn't have longevity. And I mean, I know X-Files has like a greater mythology that carries throughout the whole show, but they really kind of kept that freak of the week. They would revisit it quite often, which I think made the show a lot of fun. It mixed things up.
Yes, absolutely.
Even when they brought it back, which I didn't finish the newer seasons. I think they do 2?
They did 2.
New seasons?
I hate to admit that I didn't watch any of season 11. I watched.
You don't have to hate to admit that. I'm like,
Yeah,
think
I watched. I watched
good
season 10, and it was fine. And then I just wasn't, something about it just didn't pull me in to season 11. But I'm doing a rewatch, and I'm committed to watching it all. I'm gonna take the breaks,
do it all?
watch the movies, go back to the season. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Full commitment. I love that.
All the way.
If you do like listening to people talk about X-Files, I did get to go on Movies That Made Us Gay and talk about X-Files Fight the Future.
That's right.
Wait, is Fight the Future the first one?
Fight the Future is the first one, yeah.
I got to talk about Fight the Future,
my
and it fucking
gosh.
ruled.
That's so great.
That was such a big deal when that movie came out.
Huge.
Because I'm trying to think of any other shows. Huge. I'm trying to think of any other shows that actively had a film while they were on the air. And I can't.
I feel like
Downton
there was.
There's got to be one.
No, but that came out when it was done, wasn't it?
Which one?
You're right. Even Downton Abbey.
Downton
was
Abbey. I know. I'm like, hilarious comparison, but also, yeah, the show was done. So that is a big deal to do it while the show is actively on.
I mean, I thought it was a big deal. And the big thing for the actors, too, is they're working ahead of like a storyline that hasn't happened yet because they have to conclude this in the next season. You know, the story from the movie is going to carry over. And it did. And they did a good job with it.
Yeah, they integrated the movie, and I think what really worked about the movie, especially the first one, the second movie is really good too. I really like the second movie that they did after. It's sort of between.
I like the second
the end
movie.
Of the show and the new ones. You don't like the second movie?
I like the second movie as well, but I have a bone to pick with that movie.
Oh,
what?
My bone to pick with that movie is I was just all over the internet. Oh, new X-Files movie. Yes. And I'm looking stuff, and there are pictures that existed on the internet of Chris Carter directing a guy in a giant werewolf costume. And I was like, we're going to get werewolves. And it didn't.
No.
Oh, Billy,
I sat through that whole movie being like,
hurt.
where
You
are
were
the werewolves?
I'm here for the werewolves. Like I got my big popcorn. I'm ready. Like where? Okay, that is very.
No,
upsetting.
you did not get werewolves, but you did get a pedophile.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
which is a monster of a different kind.
not what you were expecting.
Wasn't he a priest as well?
Ugh.
Yeah, he was like an ex-priest.
Yeah.
He had to like live in a special pedophile apartment.
Yeah.
Boy,
So watch X-Files too. I don't know what the movie's called.
It's so
X-Files.
lighthearted.
So lighthearted and free and fun. Well, we
Love
have a
it.
lot of lighthearted stories today. Just kidding. We have no lighthearted stories
Nothing
today.
at all.
Well, if you don't mind, I have one lighthearted story I would like to start with.
Oh,
Yes, let's do it. No, yeah, let's start off really sweet.
So, when I want to say in my mid-20s, I have an uncle who is no longer with us now.
R.I.P.
He was serving some time, and I had to get some records for him for his lawyer. So I had to call the local FBI field office. And now, I grew up in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So the local field office is in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Can you imagine how boring it is to be an FBI agent stationed in Pascagoula?
Pascagoula.
So I call.
Not much is happening.
And the agent that answered the phone, he goes, FBI. And I forgot the rest of anything that happened that day because that's all I could think about.
FBI.
That guy was so excited to get a phone call.
Waiting for my phone
waiting
to
to
ring.
say that.
I've been holding it in. It
It's
exploded.
the first
out of
call
me.
we've gotten all week.
Yeah, I could just. It was such a good moment for him, and I could tell, and I enjoyed it.
I'm so happy that you gave him that moment.
Yeah.
Like the homeboy in Pascagoula needed to speak to you. He needed that day.
I wish I would have
He
had
made
something
his day.
juicier for him, but
I know, as opposed to like, can I get some records?
Yeah, can we get a record transfer, please?
I don't know if I would be able to resist if I had a reason to call the local FBI office. I don't know if I would be able to resist being like, hey, it's like the weirdest thing you've worked on. They'd be like, oh, actually, we're not going to tell you because you're no one. Oh,
we can't tell you that. But
are you sure that I'm no one?
Oh. Milton Hershey's on the line. This is the only badge I had.
Yeah, I just put my ID in a
West Hershey visitor.
But are we positive that I'm nobody?
I took a selfie for
Try
this
again.
thing. Like,
Illy, I love that. You sweetie. Oh my gosh.
If only I was that dedicated to my own show.
Right. Like I just got a Milton Hershey card that Alex, of course, has. Because, of course. So
I just put on my husband's suit. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't think any of us chose an alien story for today. And I think it would be a crime against humanity to have an X-Files episode and not talk about aliens. So Remember, Lauren, last episode when I told you that I got really high and I figured it out?
Yes, I've been waiting.
Yeah, okay. I know what aliens and UFOs are now, and I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm going to tell you guys about it.
Okay.
This is not a new theory. Like, don't light your pants on fire. This is not a new theory by any means, but it is like an amalgamation of a lot of theories that we've discussed before. But I had an experience in my own bathroom that explained it all to me. Okay, so we know UFOs exist. They're on film, they're on radar. The witnesses at this point, it's getting overwhelming. We know they're real.
Right.
It also seems like these beings exist. Call them aliens, call them ultra-terrestrials. It seems like there are a lot of people who have had unexplained experiences with what they would describe as beings from another world. Abductions, close encounters, etc. But because so many of these experiences differ from each other, it's hard to tell what it is that these aliens, quote, want from us. Like, some people have really terrifying experiences with aliens that seem to be almost evil. Some people have very nonchalant experiences, and some people have genuinely good and meaningful experiences that seem to like change their life forever. So it's like, okay, are they from different planets? Are they different species of aliens? Is it all in our heads and it's just like how we perceive the experience? Are they here to harm us or help us? So the other night, I was in my bathroom and I was getting ready for bed, and there was a spider in my sink.
Ugh.
And so I got to work trying to like help her out, and she didn't want anything to do with my hand, and I don't blame her. She was so tiny. My hand was probably very scary. So I had to like get a piece of toilet paper and put it in there and get her to grab on, and then I like gently placed her in an area where I had seen other spiders before and was like, maybe that's her family. Go home. And as I was doing this, I was thinking about how like me a decade ago would have turned on the faucet and just like washed her down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for that change in myself. Like, I don't kill bugs anymore. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'll slap a mosquito. I'm not a saint. But
Sure.
If I see a bug struggling, I'll stop and help it. If I see a woolly worm crossing the street, I'll like adjust my trajectory and go around it, and I won't smush it. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how every person is different and how they interact with like insects and pests on the planet. Some people will go out of their way to ensure they aren't purposefully harming them. Some people will squish them. And some people will even like specifically try to do harm. They'll pull off their wings. They'll trap them under a jar. They'll drown them. Like, some people like legitimately are cruel to them. So I was thinking about this from the spider's perspective. And at this point, a few weeks later, there could be like 3 different generations of spiders in my bathroom who worship me as a god because I saved that one spider. And then I was imagining like a Spider 60 Minutes with like the spider that I saved talking about how she was saved by this being, and she didn't know why she was chosen. She had heard all these horrible stories about, these getting squished by these giant beings that they didn't understand. And so, like, why was she saved? We've used the bug analogy before, I know. Thinking about, like, ants that live on an anthill next to a highway, for example. They don't know about the highway.
They don't know what's about to happen over there.
So, say we figure it out, okay? We learn this is true. We're essentially ants to them. They are much more advanced, higher beings. How would we communicate that with them? Like, imagine ants figuring us out.
Right.
Collectively, all over the world, they communicate anthill to anthill, and they're like, these guys are up to something. How would they tell us?
Mm-hmm.
Learn English? Spell out with their bodies, like, we're ants and we know what you're up to? Like, how would ants tell us and communicate with us that they're aware that we exist?
So you're saying, how are we supposed to tell the aliens that we know they exist and we've seen all their 8 million UFOs?
Because the whole question of aliens is like, we know that they're around. We know UFOs are real. We know that they exist. Why won't they talk to us? Why would they? Like, do you stop in your kitchen and try to explain yourself to an ant?
No. I'm the person that will drown them and intentionally torture them that you described before. Sorry about it.
Well, someday, maybe Maybe you'll grow.
I hope to be a good person like you, and I am very excited for your growth. But I wish harm upon most ants. But I like your theory. I like where you're going.
I really do. I think that we are ants to them. And like, it's not necessarily that they're all different species, they all come from a different planet. It's just that, say the ants do communicate to us that they're sentient, they learn our language, they learn how to talk to us. Would we be able to change every single person's mind on Earth to like help protect the ants and not squish the ants?
Sure not.
No. Some people would like legitimately love that. Like, some people would like splooge in their pants torturing an ant because people are horrific.
Are monsters, yeah.
And who's to say that these aliens aren't don't have the same attitude?
Right.
Some of them see a person and they're like, I want to help this little thing. And some see a person and they're like, whatever. And some see a person and they're like,
screw this guy.
I'm going to torture it.
I'm going to harm them right now.
I think that this theory would be very troublesome to people in like an existential way. And this theory actually makes sense to me of why the government wouldn't tell us. Because that's another question. It's like, why wouldn't they tell us? Like, it doesn't make sense that like people would just lose their minds over aliens. It's like, people wouldn't maybe lose their minds over aliens, but people would probably lose their fucking minds if they found out that they weren't the highest, most complex being on their own planet.
Exactly it. I was like, I think at this point, people are actually pretty on board with believing aliens are real because of all of the evidence that has come out. I think it would be more like, wait, there's something more intelligent than us that like maybe doesn't give a fuck about us, and like they could squish me, quote unquote, in a second. Like I think that is
that's
absolutely
a lot scarier.
Yeah. It would also challenge so many religious beliefs too.
Correct.
That I think people wouldn't know what to do with that information.
We would just implode as a people.
Which I do understand. I understand that people would like lose their mind. I understand why it would challenge them. But ants are really important. Spiders are really important. If all the spiders and ants on this planet died, the balance would be thrown off so immensely. It would literally end life on this planet.
What are ants important for? You have to tell me honestly, because they are the ones just that I like to hurt.
The balance of life. Like, we have to, every single creature on this planet is doing something.
What do cockroaches do?
Cockroaches are from hell, actually, and they do nothing for us.
Okay, thank you. I can't be that great because cockroaches and ants are the two that I'm like, if you don't leave me the fuck alone. But ants, I'll try to have a better heart for them. I will.
Listen, all I'm saying is put yourself in that ant's shoes. No, but okay. If you are a believer in a God and you believe that God created us, then you also believe that God created ants and spiders. You just kind of have to let go of your ego surrounding the idea that you're the most intelligent being.
Okay.
God could still have created you. He just also created them and made them better and stronger and more intelligent and faster.
And better in every way.
Sorry. And better in every way and in his image.
This is a very good theory. The story, how it started, was one of the funniest things that I've ever heard. And I did not understand how we were going to get there. And now I'm like, oh, I totally see what she's saying. But at the time I was like, oh my God, Ashley is just telling a story of how she was so high and thinks she's queen of the spiders in her bathroom.
I do think I'm queen of the spiders in my bathroom, and there's a whole lore now.
And that is your dream, and I hope you hold on to that.
Can't stop thinking about Spider 60 Minutes. Because at the time we were watching a UFO documentary and they were like, I don't know why I was chosen. And I was like, that's exactly what that spider is saying in my bathroom right now. Like, I don't know why she saved me.
Well, hopefully they'll spread the gospel of Ashley to other rooms in your house. So
they'll know.
Yeah, I don't want just one kingdom. Yeah. I want a whole...
I want you to rule the whole house.
The world.
Every spider should be worshiping you in there.
Yeah. Now I'm just imagining a little ant or spider Moses coming down with tablets being like, Ashley told unto me.
These are the rules she taught us.
Oh, that's so good.
Maybe I will write a spider 10 commandments to hang in my bathroom.
Oh my God.
Just really tiny tablets I'll put near the bottom with little spider commandments.
Just put 2 pieces of rice behind glass and be like, those are the spider 10 commandments.
These are the commandments.
Given to the Anyway, so if we're ants, that's fine. Just try to be good to other ants and try to make our ant lives as good as possible.
And you can sacrifice a cockroach as your offering to your queen.
Anytime. Anytime. Anyways, so that's my alien spiel for the day.
Loved it so much.
Let's move on. Billy, I would love to hear what you brought us today. This is a topic that I'm obsessed with, and I can't wait to hear about it.
So, I mean, we know, because it's been popping up so much in the last, 10, 15 years, maybe, the reptilian conspiracy theory.
Oh, yes.
So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I'm going to probably cover some things that have been covered before, but I've got a little info that spread in there that I'd also like to share.
Perfect.
Here for it.
A lot of people call it the reptilian conspiracy theory, but reptilians these specific reptilians go by many different names. They're reptoids, archons, reptiloids, saurians, draconians, or just lizard people.
Sure.
Okay.
And did the reptiles themselves come up with this, or was this a human concoction?
You know what? I don't think we'll ever know.
Oh.
How will we know?
I don't think we'll ever know.
Part of the mystery.
But according to the lizard people theory, bloodthirsty reptilians first appeared in ancient times. Some theorists believe that reptiloids are of alien descent. I've got some alien stuff in here.
Well,
Hey.
So they hail from the Draco constellation or the Orion constellation. Some also believe that they're allied with nefarious extraterrestrials from the Orion constellation. Others claim that they are interdimensional. So, I mean, when you're getting into things like interdimensional beings, like that opens up a whole nother, I can't even think about
can of
my
worms.
brain.
Seriously.
Yeah, I know. You can't even wrap around it.
When you go from extraterrestrial to ultra-terrestrial, that's a whole nother ball game, bitch.
But then when I start thinking about interdimensional stuff, I start thinking about the void and Lovecraft and what's beyond the gate.
I know.
And just my brain can't.
We shouldn't even know. And my brain just stops. It's no, I can't.
Since these ancient times, beings have been merging with humans through the manipulation of DNA, as well as interbreeding with the human population. The goal of this process was to gain control of the world, obtaining positions of power and influence, royalty, politicians, popular entertainers, etc. Just so they could kind of weave their way into our lives slowly and become the highest on the ladder.
I believe it.
Now, the simple way to prove the existence of lizard people is by recognizing the ones among us. Philip Bump of The Atlantic wrote an article, How to Spot the Reptilians Running the U.S.
Government. Love this.
Does
Give us
he
the
have
tips. Yeah.
The article provides a helpful summary of common characteristics: low blood pressure, random scars, a great love of space and science, an eye color of green, hazel, or blue. That's a lot of people, which could change at any time.
But also, how do I figure out what J.D. Vance's blood pressure is?
I know.
How do we get the medical? Maybe that's why we haven't seen any of Trump's medical records after he got his ear shot.
They got that low blood pressure.
Because that man has high blood pressure. So if it comes back as low, then
we know.
Then we know.
We know.
That's how we learn.
So there has been further evidence of that exists in the form of video. So slowing down or pausing can sometimes reveal a glimpse of individual shape-shifting. So I know we've all seen those videos on the internet, and I'm just I love them. Every time I'm yes,
there he is. It certainly wasn't a video glitch. It's definitely a second set of eyelids.
I'm never nope, that was not from the technology. Lizard.
Not from Earth.
No, they want you to think it's the technology. That's what they want you to think.
That's exactly what they want.
So nonetheless, other evidence exists to support the theory. For example, some believe lizard people are referenced within Bible passages. The serpent tricking Eve into eating the apple.
Naturally.
The Nephilim interbreeding with humans. Even Satan's characterization as a serpent or a dragon-like being.
Okay.
A lot of people take that to be reptiloids. But in the 1940s, American occultist Maurice Doreal wrote a pamphlet entitled Mysteries of the Gobi that described a serpent race with bodies like man but heads like a great snake and the ability to take human form.
Ooh.
So, I mean, we have these theories about ancient times, but then you're actually starting to get into written accounts in the 40s.
Yeah, and also just looking at like ancient civilizations and how many of them had beings that had the head of a reptile or the body of a snake or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, when you look back at like a lot of their artwork, so many of them prayed to like snake beings or worship snake beings.
What did they know?
Mm-hmm.
What did they
What
know
did they
that we don't know?
know?
They had some kind of information.
Now, alien abduction narratives sometimes allege contact with reptilian creatures. One of the earliest reports was that of Ashland, Nebraska police officer Herbert Shermer, who under hypnosis recalled being taken aboard a UFO in 1967 by humanoid beings with a slightly reptilian appearance who wore a winged serpent emblem on the left side of their chest.
Really?
Something there.
So then we're going to jump forward some to more modern. In September 12th, 2003, during a provincial election campaign in Ontario, Canada, the Ernie Eves campaign issued a news release that called opponent Dalton McGuinty an evil reptilian kitten eater from another planet.
Kitten eater?
Kitten eater.
Evil!
All right, hold on.
They are bloodthirsty.
Hold on. Kitten eater.
Hold on 1 second. I am calling the FBI. No one's going to be eating kittens in my neighborhood.
Call
okay?
Milton Hershey. We got this.
Milton?
Let's go.
They're eating kittens, apparently. I won't stand for it.
On it. Okay, kitten eater. I'm not here for that.
Okay. So this one we might all have heard. In 2008 U.S. Senate election in Minnesota between comedian and commentator Al Franken and incumbent Senator Norm Coleman, one of the ballots challenged Coleman, including a vote for Franken with lizard people written in the space provided for write-in candidates.
I did not know
What?
about that.
No,
That's
okay.
fucking hilarious.
Okay, that is so good.
Okay, so were they accusing Al Franken of being the alien? Or the lizard?
It's hard to say that. I don't think it was they were
say.
calling Franken a lizard. I think they were saying they'd rather have a lizard person.
Well,
It's like, if this is my only choice, I vote
don't worry,
lizard
just wait.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If I got to go, this is a lizard person for me, please.
please. I will choose that.
So in February 2011, on the Opie and Anthony radio show, comedian Louis C.K., sorry, I know it's controversial.
He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. He broke my heart, but listen, go on.
You can say Louis C.K. said, scandal noted, and then you can go on with your quote.
Asterisk.
Is this an asterisk? We'll
Scandal noted.
Mhm.
Yep.
So he asked former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld a number of times if he and Dick Cheney were lizard people who enjoyed the taste of human flesh. Amused by Rumsfeld's refusal to directly answer the question, CK suggested it was a possible admission of guilt. He went on to further muse that perhaps those who are lizard people cannot lie about it, and when asked if they are lizards, they either have to avoid answering the question or say yes.
Oh.
That's hilarious. Like it's a riddle.
So then they just make it into a joke. Like, what? Would I?
What?
Would I, though?
You know, he couldn't answer me, so he must be a lizard person.
I can't say I disagree with that line of thinking.
If you just avoid it, if you don't say a straight out no, then sus.
Sus.
A little sus.
It's like asking a cop if they're a cop. Are you a cop?
Are you a cop? You have to tell me if you're a cop. Are you a lizard person? You have to tell me if you're a lizard.
You have to tell me.
They have to tell you, and that's coming from an FBI agent.
That's right. That's right.
So here's the one, too, that I think we were talking about with the video glitches. March 4th, 2013, a video depicting a security agent with unusual features guarding President Barack Obama was spotlighted in a Wired report about shape-shifting reptilian humanoids. I think that was when it started to like really pick up steam.
And here's the thing. I think it was just a guy with alopecia.
Oh.
Like I'm really I'm almost positive it was just it was a Secret Service agent who had alopecia and just like didn't have hair and eyebrows, but listen.
But
wear a wig.
We don't
We're
know
not
that
going
for
to believe
sure.
that you're a person.
Yeah.
It's a good theory, but let's not close the door on the reptile.
No.
Right.
Then in 2016, billionaire chief executive of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, who I feel is actually a lizard, did his first Q&A town hall on social media network live streaming program and was asked, Mark, are the allegations true that you're secretly a lizard? To which he replied, I am not a lizard, and called the question silly. So that kind of debunks the Louis C.K. theory.
Damn.
Oh, because he is somebody that absolutely is a lizard in my mind. Like he just looks it. He's like Gecko.
He looks like he could lick his own eyeballs, right?
Like he is the Geico Gecko.
Yeah.
In my head.
Well, and also remember that time he went surfing and all that suntan lotion he put on him?
Oh.
He put so much suntan lotion on his body. Like
was he protecting some scales? I don't.
inhuman
What's going on?
amount of suntan lotion on this man's body.
I don't remember that, but now I'm going to have to like look it up.
Please look it up. It's one of the funniest photos I've ever seen in my entire life.
Unrelated to the lizard thing, after he said no, that's silly, he then went on to talk about telepathic technology.
Oh,
okay.
Silly. But the lizard
that's
thing.
silly.
Yeah.
And then as recently as October 2022, Dutch MP Thierry Baudet, head of Forum of Democracy, said in an interview with Geopolitics and Empire podcast that he believes that the world is being governed by evil reptiles.
Just saying.
Small statistic about this is approximately 4% of Americans actually believe the lizard people theory.
That's a lot of people. That's like millions of people.
That is actually, yeah, that's more than I thought.
4% seems like nothing, but it's
it's a lot. It's more than I thought. I truly was like, it's basically the people who listen to Keep It Weird, and that's it.
Are they all lizard people?
Listeners, write in if you are
you a lizard person?
If you're a lizard person,
you have to tell us.
You have to tell us.
You have to tell us. This is our ask right here. You have to tell us.
So when I was doing some of the research on lizard people, something popped up that I found really interesting that I didn't know about. A little bit of local history for Los Angeles.
Oh.
Apparently, there is a theory about lizard people of Los Angeles. And this was unknown to me. I didn't grow up here, so I don't know a ton about the history of Los Angeles. So then I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I started looking into it. And on January 29th, 1934, the Los Angeles Times featured a cover story on a mining engineer, named G. Warren Shuffelt. He claimed to have developed a radio X-ray that showed a series of underground tunnels beneath Los Angeles, which he mapped out. He also believed that there was gold in there. Legends of Spanish gold buried treasure somewhere under Fort Moore Hill dated back to the 19th century.
Well, we need to get down there.
Let's go get that gold.
So things did get weirder. As the Los Angeles Times headline suggested, the headline read, Lizard People's Catacombs City Haunted. Shuffelt claimed that once he had mapped the tunnels, he was taken to a Hopi Indian named Little Chief Greenleaf, who told him about the lizard people. Greenleaf said that they had built 3 underground cities along the West Coast 5,000 years ago after a great fire had engulfed the American Southwest. Now, it's unclear if the lizard people of Los Angeles were considered reptiloids or just a highly advanced race of humans more intelligent than us.
It's like the Bigfoot, only reptile, as opposed to ape.
Schuffelt's theory is that they used the symbol of a lizard to mean long life.
Okay.
But they built these subterranean cities in the shape of a lizard. The head of the lizard was under what is now Dodger Stadium, and the tail was under downtown Central Library.
I believe it.
He even said that the tunnels extended to the ocean.
Whoa.
Shuffelt and his partners believed that the key room was under Fort Moore Hill. They were told that the lizard people kept all of their most important knowledge inscribed on 37 gold tablets that were in the key room. Shuffelt even claimed to have seen those tablets and taken pictures of them with his radio X-ray machine. The County of Los Angeles authorized a dig as long as they got to keep 50% of whatever treasure was found.
Ooh, that's an okay deal.
Oh.
That's an okay deal.
It's a very okay deal.
I would have negotiated them down to like 35, but that's an okay deal.
We'll take 50.
A drilling expedition began, but they found no gold within the first 250 feet. So by December, the group had given up on the notion and Shuffelt left the public eye. The city deemed the project too dangerous to continue.
Yeah, we can't have the whole city crumbling because
ripped apart for maybe
there might be gold.
So the irony is Schuffelt's machine worked. At the time, it was a surprising discovery that there are all these tunnels underneath Los Angeles, including huge chambers that seemed like rooms.
Interesting.
So they're there. That's the prevailing theory.
What are they for?
Natural gas. So, but I mean, we've all heard that story before.
Yeah, likely.
Tale as old as time.
It was light refracting from swamp gas.
It was Saturn.
I'm not buying it. I know it's lizard people.
Not for a second. Nice try, though.
Try to jerk me around LA County.
I believe that the head of the lizard is like that in the shape. Like that feels right that it's below Dodger Stadium, because I always have a very terrible time when I'm there. And so it feels like that's where like the most demons lie.
So your Dodger Stadium is my Pantages.
Yeah.
It was like every time I'm there, I'm
honestly,
miserable.
the way you feel about Pantages, I have never had a good time at Dodger Stadium. I'm like, Lauren, just focus on like the delicious hot dog you're about to eat and like feeling like good old American baseball, which I love watching. But it's something about Dodger Stadium. I'm like, and I won't return again, but
lizard.
I still go like once a year. So it's the lizard.
Is it just a sense of uneasiness? Or you're just not comfortable, or?
Unease and overwhelm. Like I don't love big crowds. Like I do get overstimulated, but I've never had a problem with them to this extent where like the last 2 times I went to Dodger Stadium, I had like a full-blown panic attack because of the crowds. And Alex was a little like, what is going on?
What is going on? You go to Disneyland all the time.
Well, not anymore, but yes, that's a perfect example though. Like we would, and it was like, I was always fine. So he was a little blown away by that. And then, yeah, just a feeling of unease where like, even though I'm eating a delicious Dodger dog, I'll give them that credit. I love them.
They're good.
But I'm sitting there just like, oh, we gotta go. So
it's the lizard chamber.
That is interesting because it's not a very claustrophobic stadium.
Lizard chamber.
It's super
open. It's very open.
Yeah, so it has to be the lizards.
There's something there. I've never put that connection together before because I feel like we go to the Pantages a lot because we are theater nerds, and I feel like I'm always thinking of you. Like, I can't believe Ashley doesn't like it here. There are plenty of people who love Dodger Stadium, and here we are.
Here we are. Lizards.
I have one more story for you that I don't believe is connected to the reptiloid conspiracy. I think it's just a cryptid from everything I could find.
Okay.
But
we love it.
Does involve a reptilian creature. In Lee County, South Carolina, the lizard man of Scape or Swamp, or also known as the lizard man of Lee County, is an entity said to inhabit the swampland of the region. On July 14th, 1988, the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a car damaged overnight while parked at home in the area of Browntown, outside Bishopville, South Carolina, on the edges of Scape or Swamp. The car reportedly had tooth marks and scratches and muddy footprints left behind. Sheriff Liston Truesdale noted that this was the state of various claims that eventually coalesced into a story about a lizard man in the swamp. Prompted by the news of the vehicle damage, 17-year-old local Christopher Davis reported to the sheriff that his car was damaged by a creature he described as green, wet-like, about 7 feet tall, and had 3 fingers, red eyes, skin like a lizard, snake-like scales, just 2 weeks prior.
What?
According to Davis, he was driving home from working the night shift at a fast food restaurant when his car got a flat tire. After fixing it, he saw a creature walking toward him. Davis got in his car and began to drive, but the creature was soon on top of the car. He applied the brakes, causing the creature to roll off the car, giving Davis enough time to escape. Coverage by the newspapers and media resulted in increased attention for his claims. Local businessmen began selling Lizard Man t-shirts, and the local Chamber of Commerce encouraged the media attention as good for the community.
Hell yeah.
The increase in newspaper...
Lean into it.
Right? Like, bring something to your town. I wish we had a Lizard Man.
And you could.
I wish I would have had a Lizard Man in Mississippi.
Oh, in Mississippi. I was going to say in Los Angeles. Yeah. It's right there.
I know. I was like, well, LA. No, Mississippi for sure they need a lizard man.
I guess Los Angeles doesn't need anything bringing more people in.
No.
Please stop sending the people.
Coming.
Let's go to Mississippi. Let's go.
They're all underneath Dodger Stadium. You feel it. You feel it when you go there.
You feel it.
Feel it.
The increased newspaper and media publicity prompted further reports of sightings, and the area soon became a tourist attraction for visitors and hunters. Local radio station WCOS offered $1 million reward to anybody who could capture the creature alive. On August 5th, Kenneth Orr, an airman stationed at Shaw Air Force Base, filed a police report alleging that he had encountered the lizard man on Highway 15, and he had shot and wounded it. He presented several scales and a small quantity of blood as evidence. Orr later recanted this account 2 days after, when he was arraigned for unlawfully carrying a pistol and the misdemeanor offense of filing a false police report.
Okay, come on. That's clearly a conspiracy.
Right.
Somebody got to him.
Someone got to him.
1,000%. Somebody pulled him aside. Yep. Ooh!
Yeah. According to Orr, he had hoaxed the sighting in order to keep the stories about the lizard man in circulation. Reports of the creature gradually declined at the end of the summer. Local law enforcement officials speculated that the sightings were likely to have been a bear. A bear?
Oh.
A bear with its scales and three toe finger things?
No.
It was Lyle Crocodile is who it was.
Isn't he small? No.
Oh, no, he's huge.
Is he huge? Okay. I know nothing.
Huge.
You know better than I do about Lyle.
It's one of my favorite childhood books. And then there was just a movie that came out with Shawn Mendes, which was a weird choice, but he's a tall guy. He's a tall, scaly guy.
So in 2008, CNN mentioned the lizard man legend in a story about a couple in Bishopville who reported damage to their vehicle, including blood traces. The blood traces were subsequently found to have been from a domestic dog, though the local sheriff suggested it might have been a coyote or a wolf. In 2015, local television station WCIV featured photos and videos claimed to be the lizard man, allegedly taken by Jim Wilson and other unidentified individuals. And then in August 2017, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division sent out a humorous tweet regarding possible paranormal activity during the solar eclipse that passed over the area, hinting that people of Lee and Sumter County should remain vigilant for sightings of the lizard man.
Spooky.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Here's the thing. Okay, so after every one of our stories, I think we should kind of like either put on our Mulder hat or put on our Scully hat.
Okay.
I have my Mulder hat I put on for the existence of lizard-like cryptids. I'm all in. My Scully hat is now on. There are so many reasons to hate the powers that be and the 1% that we don't even need to add lizards on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to call them lizard people. Let's just hate them because of the trash they are.
Because of how they affect human beings' life on this planet. Like, that is enough to not like them, and we can just fight them for that reason. But also, I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you remember Christmas Day 2020 in Nashville, where that guy blew up the communications building with a RV?
Oh, vaguely.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
vaguely.
Yeah. I mean, I did forget till this moment.
Right before he blew it up, there was like an announcement. It was like, evacuate the area, like everyone needs to get out. And then he started playing Downtown when you're alone and you're a birdie, we can always go downtown. Boom. And it blew up. And he did that because he believed in the reptile theory. Like, it came out afterwards that this was a guy who 1000% believed in reptilians, and he was trying to disrupt the communication systems. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with the reptile theory. It really it gets real convoluted. He was like, I gotta interrupt the communication systems throughout the Southeast for reasons. Like, how was that fighting the reptilians? I don't know.
Yeah. So in that case, you're like, this is when I'm gonna put on my glasses and say, well,
I gotta put on my glasses. You have not presented any evidence to me that they are reptilian, and also your reasons for like causing millions and millions of dollars worth of damages to this downtown area are what?
Reasons. I mean, it is kind of easy to. It's fun. It's a fun theory to play into, but it is really kind of easy to write it off because, I mean, one of the most notable theorists is a guy named David Icke. He's written so many books about this reptiloid conspiracy, but he's also a raging anti-Semite. So, like, does this equate to like Jews being in power and they're lizard people?
Yeah.
Like, so it's, you know, it's a fun theory to look at,
right?
But in reality, yeah, I think we all kind of have to put on our Scully hats with this
1,000%. And Ashley and I feel like every time we do a conspiracy theory episode, like you kind of just did it perfect, but you did it in Mulder and Scully way, which was fun for this episode. But it's like when we do conspiracy theory episodes, we always say like some are fun and let's just like talk about this really fun theory and like here's a little bit of evidence that might back it up, but then here is where it crosses the line and gets dangerous. And it's like I feel like every conspiracy theory has that, and I feel like we always, you know, try to mix that in of like, listen, you can absolutely take this too far, and this is not an excuse to be hateful towards all these people who've done absolutely nothing, and to add your own theories of like, oh, I have to blow up the communication building, even though like nothing is pointed to that in any time. But yeah, I feel like if you're just keeping it in the space of like, yeah, I think there could be this tall lizard person that exists and is crawling in the sewers under the city, hell yeah. But then you are going to make innocent people pay for that in some way, then that's where it takes a turn.
Yeah. Well, and I think the most dangerous part of the reptilian theory is like when you assign this to an actual person.
Yeah.
And you say that they're this monster. What do you do with monsters?
You hunt them.
You kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
A little dangerous.
It is a very fun conspiracy theory. So I'll definitely put on the Scully hat for that one. But as far as like the Swamp Man of Lee County, that's a cryptid, and I'm buying into it.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, and I'm like
Mulder hat.
Yeah, that's where the Mulder
real.
hat is. Yeah.
I do not believe that was a bear.
You tell me that's a bear?
Bears
that was not a motherfucking
wet-like.
bear. Again,
They don't have scales. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to believe that it was a crocodile or an alligator that learned how to walk in its hind legs.
I was going to say that learned how to stand upright. Nobody ever said brown fur.
Or we can say maybe it was Lauren's favorite monster, Swamp Thing.
Could have been Swamp Thing. We don't know.
And we had to bring it up at least once. I mean, and we had to.
I wish I had brought my little Swamp Thing in here, actually. My sister and my brother-in-law. I think I sent
did you
both
tell
a picture
Billy?
on Christmas? Yeah, I think I sent it to both of you last Christmas. They got me a little Swamp Thing figure eight, and I was like, hilarious. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
It's so funny because I feel like
it was a good time.
From your family's perspective, like with Jamie and your mom, really, who like listened to the show, I feel like they are roasting you like so much in it of like, well, you didn't tell Lauren the right person, but like I also fully take accountability because it absolutely was the most confusing email I've ever received from you, and every part of me should have asked, why'd you assign me
The alarms
this?
were going off.
It's like I was like, that's so weird she chose.
Whatever.
But you know what, though? You dug in and you did a great Swamp Thing.
Thank you. I did my research. We tied it in.
Listen, we made it happen.
It worked.
Because we're professionals.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually have kind of a fun segue. So, Billy, what was it? An X-ray machine? What did that guy build?
X-ray radio machine is what he called it.
X-ray radio machine that actually worked. That's so cool. I have a possible invention as well.
Ooh.
I wanted to talk about this guy, Edward Leedskalnin. He was born in Latvia. But first of all, I didn't know this. Did you guys know this? Florida, like the state of Florida, the ground essentially is made of limestone.
I don't think I did know that. No.
I don't think I did know that.
I didn't either until I did this story. And it was like, as you know, Florida's made of limestone. And I was like, as I know.
My parents just lived there for 12 years. So they didn't tell me a damn thing. Well.
Literally, like, if you're in Florida, you are walking on limestone. It's made up of like a sponge filled with dried skeletal remains of sea creatures. It's a sea monster cemetery.
Okay.
Well, that makes more sense.
But today, I want to talk about a place called Coral Castle. These days, Coral Castle is privately owned, and it's a privately owned and operated tourist attraction in Leisure City, Florida. It's a museum and a sculpture garden that's made up of over 1,100 tons of carved coral rock. And it's known as a marvel of engineering. And 1,100 tons, just in case you're wondering, like, how many pounds is that? 2,200,000 pounds of coral rock.
So many pounds.
Now, on its own, very cool. Like, that's insane. But the craziest part about it is it was all made by a single man over the course of about 28 years, over 100 years ago.
Whoa.
Even crazier, no one knows how he did it.
I love stuff like this. Just like the ancient aliens, all the things of like, but how'd you do that?
But how did he do it?
Okay.
So this man's name is Edward Leedskalnin. He was born in Latvia in 1887. He was the fifth son of farmers who lived on rented land. And that's important because we know they're not wealthy by any means. This was not their farm. They rented the land. They worked the farm. It was not their farm. In fact, Edward only had a 4th grade formal education.
Ooh, wow.
So this is not an educated man. He also was kind of a sickly child who had to spend a lot of time indoors reading books instead of out on the farm. And that's like the extent of what we know about his childhood. He might have learned some stonemasonry from his father. The end, like that's all we know. But when he was 26 years old, he was engaged to marry a girl named Agnes Skufsk, who he was very much so in love with, even though she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Different time.
Different times.
Also kind of gross, though. So she broke off their engagement right before they were due to be wed and, like, totally broke his heart, so much so that he was like, I'm leaving Latvia and I'm moving to the United States. So he moved to New York City in 1912. And from there, he moved to the Pacific Northwest. He worked in the logging business. All we know about him at that time was that he was self-employed manufacturing axe handles. And the only reason we know that is because of his draft registration for World War I. We don't know much about this guy. But in the winter of 1922, he contracted tuberculosis. And that's when he decided, time to move to Florida. No more winters for Leedskalnin. Can't do this anymore. I'm a sick person. And that it was in Florida where he began constructing what he called Rock Gate. He dedicated it to Agnes, the 16-year-old who broke his heart. And, you know, remember I said he was a sickly child. He was kind of a sickly adult as well. He, especially like with the tuberculosis, he was only about 5 feet tall.
Jeez.
He probably maxed out at about 130 pounds.
Wow.
And yet somehow, working alone and only at night, he was able to take 2.2 million pounds of limestone and build this enormous castle. Every piece of this place is limestone. There are limestone beds, rocking chairs, tables, fountains, a functional limestone sundial, a ton of sculptures, enormous sculptures, shaped like moons and stars and planets. And this includes things like a 9-ton gate. So the gate itself is 9 tons, 5.8-ton walls, and even a 28-ton obelisk.
Whoa.
All carved out of limestone, all somehow moved around by this tiny sick man.
And how long? What was the span of time?
He worked on it for about 28 years.
And he did it alone?
Alone. And no one knows how.
Hmm.
That's not even like the extent of the marvel of this engineering. There's even a working door still. It's like a gate that is 9 tons and it rotates with the slightest push because it's balancing on its center of gravity with these tiny little ball bearings.
How?
Yeah.
No.
How?
Excuse you, sir. No.
How?
How?
How and why and where?
No one knows. To this day, no one knows how Ed managed to lift these rocks by himself and put them together so seamlessly.
Right.
When people would ask him How did you do this? He would tell them that he studied hard and figured out how the ancient Egyptian pyramids were built.
Okay.
See the connection. Okay, but
What?
I mean, your theory of I studied hard, I don't buy, but I do love the connection to the pyramid because that is another one where I'm like, but
how?
I don't know.
How?
There's so many things. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is like that's not even a great comparison because each of the blocks of the pyramids were only 2.5 tons each.
Yeah, like still real heavy, but not the same.
Not nearly as heavy as the shit that he was moving.
Jeez.
Now, I do think it's interesting. Something that Ed was very obsessed with was magnetism. He had written and published multiple pamphlets in his lifetime addressing the interaction of electricity, magnetism, and the human body. He also built a device that he called the perpetual motion holder that supposedly created a self-perpetuating electromagnetic field with a constant source of energy. And it was basically a circulating magnetic current, which when the current was broken would release an amount of energy equal to the amount put into the circuit. And there were rumors when he was building this place that teenagers who would try to sneak around his land at night and see what he was up to, because everyone knew what he was building, several of them claimed to have seen the rocks moving around like they were filled with helium. What?
On a 4th grade education?
I know.
On a 4th grade education.
Even if he like studied hard, there's no way.
Right. Studied hard.
There's no way.
There's no way he could pull all of this off. Like, who is this person?
He was a weirdo. I mean, he was a torture genius. Clearly, it seems. He was very eccentric. He supposedly like lived on an exclusive diet of crackers and sardines. Like he was weird. And he died in 1951. He checked himself into a hospital in Miami. He died 28 days later of kidney failure due to an infection. But the thing is, he took his secrets with him. No one fucking knows how he did this.
He didn't leave one journal.
Well, he wrote those pamphlets about
well,
magnetism and,
but
his belief.
It's still like, but then what'd you do with that?
But not like one crude drawing of a UFO.
You can build his perpetual motion machine or whatever the fuck it was called. Perpetual motion holder. There, like his design still exists, but I don't think anyone's been able to replicate it.
Probably not in the way that he did. That magical witch.
Mulder hat, Scully hat. What do you guys think?
Ooh, this is a really tough one.
Yeah.
I'm very I feel like I'm right in the middle.
How do you do it? He did it.
Yeah.
It's real. You can go walk around. You can see it.
I know. So I'm like, it exists. And obviously, I'm always of the, isn't it fun to believe? So, I'm here. I'm here for that. I believe that it happened. And part of me is like, you're a wizard, Harry. Like, I don't know how else. Like, I think he has to be magical. And then on the flip side, I'm just like, but what? Like, somebody else had to be involved, but I don't know who. Like, I have no theories. I have no evidence. I have no nothing.
I don't even know where to go with a theory for this. Like, what knowledge could he have gained?
He's a wizard.
To build this castle in such a short period of time. Like, short period of time for him to learn. I mean, it took a long time for him to build a castle, but like,
yeah.
I have nothing. Yeah. It's so wild.
How do you figure it
out?
Now
I want to see this in person.
And even over that long length of time, like, yes, you said 28 years, which is like, oh, okay. So like he had all this time, but even so, the things that he was lifting and building and to understand the center of gravity and then make that spinning thing where the rocks are flying around too. Yeah. And the door that was moving, but I'm just like, where and how and when? But
hold on. How many pounds is 9 tons?
What is it? 18,000?
19,000, yeah. 19,841 pounds. So that's just one door. There's a 28-ton obelisk. So 28 tons, 56,000 pounds. One man was able to move something that's 56,000 pounds. And this is in, 1930. He didn't have a backhoe.
Yeah, I didn't have construction vehicles. So.
You couldn't even fit a backhoe in this place.
No.
It's a pretty small place. It's pretty compact.
I mean, maybe if he had a really good understanding of physics, but with a fourth grade education, I don't
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really struggling with this one.
Yeah.
I don't have a Scully hat for this one. I'm totally a Mulder on this one. I'm like, I don't know. He figured it out.
He just did it.
Physics, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to another guy who has done special things.
Lauren? I know. I feel horrible that this is the note that we're ending on, but also it's the most Lauren thing ever because I am always so dark and disturbing. Okay. I love the darkness. That's why I'm a preschool teacher. Just kidding. That was a horrible thing to say.
Oh, God.
Okay, here we go.
I'll cut it out.
I don't know. I feel like you can have both.
No, it's going on
both
a t-shirt.
Of your
Listen,
things.
It's going on a shirt. I'm not cutting it out.
Both things can exist in your soul, Okay. So, yeah, I'm talking about a horrible person, but also like what the fuck was going on with this guy. And so I will be interested to have the discussion at the end. I am talking about an 18th century French showman named either, you could pronounce it Terrare or Tarare, Tarrare. It feels more French to say Terrare, but this man could eat enough to feed 15 people and swallow supposedly a decent-sized cat whole. That is kind of just to give you like the shape of his appetite. However, this man was never, ever satisfied. His hunger could never be satisfied. He always needed more, even though he could consume all of this.
Absolutely our monster of the week.
Yeah.
This is monster of the week.
Billy did the conspiracy. I did the like scientific thing where Mulder goes in. He's like, it's aliens. And Scully's like, actually, he figured out physics in a way that is beyond human understanding. And now we have our monster of the week. Terrare is absolutely our fucking monster of the week.
1000%. So it's the 1790s. Terrare, who was born in 1772 and known only as Terrare, that's all you get of this man in history. And there's like no, paintings, photos, anything that has been recreated of him. He's like such a mysterious being. But he was a soldier in the French Revolutionary Army and known, obviously, for his insane appetite. The army had already quadrupled his rations, but even after downing enough food to feed 4 men, he would still scavenge through the garbage piles and guzzle down every discarded shred of waste he could get his hands on because it was just never enough. But the strangest part of it all, if this already wasn't bizarre enough, is that he always looked as though he were starving, emaciated, skinny little skeleton boy. The young man barely weighed 100 pounds, and he seemed constantly tired and distracted, out of it, dark circles under his eyes. It was like, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're starving. But he was eating everything. He was showing signs of being undernourished, even though he was eating enough to feed a small barracks. And so, like doctors are constantly checking in on him and like, is anyone feeding him? And it's like, yes. And he took our food.
Feeding him.
My gosh, like our other guys are actually pretty hungry because he's taking their food. So there must have been a few of his, mates who were just wanting to get rid of him. And they were like, we have to get him out of here. He's taking all of our food.
So
and
hungry.
he's just the fucking worst. Like this guy is digging through garbage. He's a disaster. And on top of it, he smelled so bad to the point that it has been recorded in, journals and books over time that there was some kind of visible vapor that rose off of him, like the stink lines you see in a cartoon. It was like radiating off of him. I feel like a good way to describe it is like if you're looking at the road on a hot day and you see like a little wiggly, that's like what was coming off of him.
I mean, was he just constantly shitting his pants? Like how
Yeah.
Did he poop more than normal?
Was it just in and out.
That's the thing, is like his bowel movements were pretty normal, which is even more bizarre. So it was like, where is it all going? It was like he was regular,
He was
had his fiber. He was going every day, but it wasn't like he has diarrhea 20 times a day. But he smelled. It was coming out of his pores, like whatever was being digested and processed in his body, it was coming out everywhere. It was radiating off of him. So of course, like, people are starting to report him. People want him out of there. And it catches the eye of two military surgeons, Dr. Corville and Baron Percy. And Terrari was so fascinating that they were like, listen, we want to help this guy. We want to look out for the other soldiers, of course, but also, like, we gotta know. Yeah, like, I can't wait to study him and get my hands on him. Like, who is this strange man? And, like, how is he doing this? So it had been with him his whole life. They were able to find out when they kind of brought him in, were talking to him. It was completely insatiable. He never once had felt satisfaction. And it was so much so that even when he was a teenager, his parents became unable to afford the massive piles of food, and they kicked him out of their house at a very young age and were just like, we can't live this way and we don't know what to do. So before he joined the military, he actually was a traveling showman, and he fell in with this band of thieves traveling freak show, and they would tour France and put on acts while also pickpocketing people in the audience.
Classic.
And Terrari was able to be their star attraction, who was the big distraction while they were robbing people blind.
I can eat several 100 pounds of food.
Yep. The incredible man who could eat anything. He was such a pull, such a draw for everybody. Because not just was he inhaling all of this stuff, but as you're watching him, you would see, like, he had this massive deformed jaw that would swing open so that he could pour, like, a whole basket of bread and apples down his mouth, down his gullet. And, like,
did it almost, like, unhinge?
A little bit, yeah. But it was also, like, really, really wide. Like, his head and jaw were also just wide, but yes, unhinged so that it could kind of snap down. It was just a shape that, like, no one has ever had who is a human being. So he's consuming these baskets of food, and, like, the most memorable was that he would do a basket of apples and be able to hold several in his cheeks like a chipmunk. And then after that, after doing, some normal but large amounts of food consumption, then he would really bring out the show and swallow corks, stones, and then live animals whole.
Oh.
All to the amazement, but also disgust of the crowd.
Horror.
He was able at one point to seize a live cat with his teeth, disembowel it, suck its blood, and eat it, leaving the skeleton only at the end to pull out and place, like you see in cartoons with, like, the fish bone.
That's the craziest thing you've ever said on this show.
That anyone has ever said ever. Like, what?
What?
Imagine seeing it, though.
I know.
Positive this was a human being?
No one knows for sure, because, again, like, he was only known as Terrari. We don't have, like, a whole lot of records on him. He was kicked out at a young age. He was traveling with the circus. So it's sort of like, he is mysterious. I don't know. Could be some hearsay. We don't know where he really came from. Like, he is definitely real. There's enough records, but, like, his history is a little, like...
Yeah, but was he born on this planet? We're not sure.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So Baron Percy, one of the surgeons, took such an interest in this case, of course, and it was noted in his long, many years of medical notes that dogs and cats would flee in terror anytime they saw him coming down the street, because there was such a knowing that, like, this man was eating animals whole, that like, enough animals, stray cats and dogs, had witnessed it that they were even starting to catch on to it, and it was like everyone was running from him.
Well, I also wonder if whatever he smelled like,
yeah,
that people
also
were
the
like,
stench.
Stinky. Animals could have been like alarm bells.
That's kind of what I was wondering too. Was there something off-putting about the scent?
And it's like, yeah, the stench is turning both people and animals off, but there was, like, the surgeon noted that it was like a fear. Like, it just seemed as if everything was like, this is bad. Like, we're going to get eaten. Like, what is this monster that I've never seen in my life? But even with all of the research, the studying, the note-taking, Terrari continued to baffle both of these surgeons that kind of took him in. At the age of 17, he weighed just 100 pounds, although he was eating all of this, and he just had this inexplicable, insatiable appetite that like didn't equate to any of the diseases they knew about that could potentially lead to excessive appetite. Like it could still always be quenched in some way, even in like these more bizarre, rare cases. But with him, it was like nothing works.
Wouldn't it be funny if he was just dehydrated? He'd
He
never had water
just
before.
really needed water, some electrolytes. Like we didn't have that for him at the time, you know. His body, as you might imagine, was not a pretty sight. Even though he was way underweight, his skin had to stretch to an incredible degree in order to fit all the food he was shoving down his enormous jaw. So he would blow up like a balloon, especially in the stomach region, almost look like he was pregnant. But then shortly after, you know, he'd step into the bathroom in the late afternoon or evening, release everything from the day, and it was just skin and bone, like baggy skin and bone that was left behind. And what was in the toilet was just like hell, because it smelled worse than what he was radiating off of his body. But like also the doctors were looking at it like, this is never a stool sample we've seen before. Like this is the nastiest, most horrible thing I've ever seen.
I love that there's like notes from doctors being like, this shit is unlike any shit we've ever seen.
1000%. And then he just was left with droopy skin, like droopy cheeks around his enormous jaw, droopy stomach skin, like everywhere. And he just had all these folds of skin. But then he had the horrible smell from all of the food that he was ingesting. So another wording in some of the medical records from the doctors were, he often stank to such a degree that he could not be endured within the distance of 20 paces. Like you couldn't exist like on the same street, alley with him, like let alone try to have a conversation. So I'm sure anytime they were studying him, it was just like masks, wraps, like you didn't even want to be anywhere near this man. It was so bad. And his body skin was hot to the touch. So there was constant sweat dripping off of him. And, you know, the sweat is smelling like sewer water. Like what is happening to this man's body?
It's a monster. This is a monster. Like this is a
total
case
monster.
where we can say that this is a monster and I don't feel bad about it.
Right. You don't have to. It was terrible.
That's a creature.
So like, obviously, all of that is already fascinating and crazy enough. But of course, after his sideshow performer life, he decided, I have to do something better with my life. So I want to fight for France's liberty. This is when he then is joining the army. But France, after a very short time, did not want him because of eating all of the food and everyone being mad about how he smelled. So he was pulled off the front lines and sent into Baron Percy and Dr. Corville's, you know, testing room and being a medical marvel. But there was one person involved in the government and overseeing the military who thought, well, wait. Like, yes, study him. That's fine, because maybe you're going to help me with this, but like, don't fully get him out of my sight yet. There was a General Alexandre Beauharnais who wanted to use him for, you know, the war. He's like, wait a minute, we can use this. I don't know how yet. This guy is wretched, but there's something here. So he is thinking, like, France is now at war with Prussia. Prussia, that brings you back, everybody. And the general was convinced that Terrari's condition could make him a bit of a courier. Like, he can carry things for them in his weird folds and tummy, and we can get things across enemy lines.
Swallow things, and then
he can swallow things because he eats it all, and then shit them out, and we can get there. And like, what can he do for us? So he's like, let's do this. So he ran an experiment, putting a document inside of a wooden box, had Terrari eat it, and then waited for it to pass through his body. And then he had a poor, unfortunate soldier clean through Terrari's mess, fish it out of the box, and see if it could still be read or if it had been processed too much. But it worked. It was not fully digested, and so he was given his first mission.
Whoa.
They tried to disguise this person as a Prussian peasant, and he was going to sneak past enemy lines to deliver a top secret message to a captured French colonel. The message would be hidden inside of a box, safely enclosed in his stomach. But sadly, Terrari didn't get far because He has long, baggy, sagging skin and smells like hell on this sweet earth rotting in garbage. So he attracted attention when he was probably 8 miles away, and everyone was like, hey, what? You're not a Prussian peasant. What you doing here? So they question him. He folds immediately because he's like, I wasn't meant for this spy life.
I was not built for this. I was built for the circus life.
Like, I'm supposed to be a freak show. So he was strip searched, whipped, tortured. They, he gave it all up to them, and Terrari broke and was like, this is the secret message that I have in my stomach. He was chained to a latrine and waited for hours for it to pass out of his system because they wanted to see what it was. And when he finally did pass it, it turned out that it was a message just saying, let me know if Terrari delivered this successfully. So it was a test still from the general after all that he was just put through. It had no real information. It had to be like a second test that went a bit further across enemy lines. So he was tortured and had to go through all of this for that. The Prussian general is so livid that he wants to hang Terrari immediately, but after cooling his jets for a moment and watching this man sob, who clearly was like, duped into this, he was like, ugh, he's sobbing like a baby in the gallows, like, whatever, let him go, I don't care.
So bad, just send
him back. I can't smell him anymore. Get him out of here.
I don't want him in here. Yeah,
I don't even want his body in our country. Get him out.
Like, he can't even be like a couple miles here. So they send him back to France. That like never try this again, obviously, but then he gets back to France begging the army like, hey, don't ever have me do this again, but like, I hope I can help you in another way. And that's when they're officially like, no, like, no. We don't want you either, get out of here. So then he's officially under the surgeon's wings being studied, and they're trying everything, feeding him wine, vinegar, tobacco pills, every medicine they could imagine in the hopes of quenching this appetite, but Terrari stayed the same no matter what was tried. And if anything, he was becoming hungrier and hungrier. So there was one desperate fit of hunger where they came in to the hospital and caught him drinking blood that had been removed from a hospital patient. And they even saw him chewing on some of the bodies in the morgue.
What?
And then this was never proven, but there was a disappearance of a baby from the hospital. No one ever knows where he went. Terrari denied, even though he admitted to everything else. So it was a little like, did he, didn't he? But it was easy to be like, you did this, step too far. There's a baby missing. Like, we're done with you.
He was eating bodies.
Dead people.
That had already died.
Mm-hmm. And drinking blood. So it was like, this would have been your next step.
Yeah.
So they were like, we can't, like, as much as you are a medical marvel and could change our lives forever, get out of here. Like, this was too much. If it wasn't too much already, but that was the step too far. Then 4 years later, after he's kicked out of the hospital, no one really knows what became of him, but it was just like, bye-bye.
Can you imagine not keeping track of this guy? Can you imagine just
like,
being like,
he's
go
like
out
a
in the
cannibal.
world?
It's like cannibal at this point. Like, it's beyond the trash. But I think everyone was just like, we can't. So 4 years later, one of the surgeons, Baron Percy, receives word that Terrari had turned up in a hospital in Versailles. The man who could eat anything was dying. He was finally dying, and Baron Percy just felt this pull of, I want to see these last moments of this medical anomaly alive. Like, I won't be able to rest until, like, I see this man.
Never stop thinking about him.
Exactly. So he goes to see him in Versailles, and he was standing there with him when he died of tuberculosis connection in 1798. And if you thought the smells coming out of him when he was alive were bad, every person who was in that room or even in the hospital in the vicinity talked about the stench that poured out when he died, and just how like nobody could breathe. You had to like run as far as you can, wrap something around your face. Like, it covered every inch of the hospital. And the autopsy was just as disgusting, finding, the entrails that were confounded together, immersed in a pus, mucus-like state with a large fatty liver, And the gallbladder was like a very large magnitude they had never seen before. The stomach was large, but in a relaxed, rubbery, like flat state, if that makes sense, and had ulcerated patches all around it, covering almost the whole of the abdominal region. Like, he was a disaster. It was like something they had never seen, all organs stretched out in ways they never should be. His stomach was so massive that it filled the whole abdominal cavity, and his gullet was unusually wide, jaw as well, as we mentioned before. It was about a cylinder of a foot in circumference, could be introduced without even touching the palate, was what was quoted in the doctor's notes. Oh. So we all thought, after the autopsy and all the studying that had gone on, that like someone like would have existed after this man, that like a doctor, a scientist, someone would have found something to describe what Terrari had, what he was going through, who or what he was. But like still to this day, like no one has any idea. But what we do know is that he, was telling the truth. This insatiable hunger was not a lie. Clearly something was going on with this man. And like this was a condition that like we just will probably never know about, unfortunately. And people have tried to describe it even still to this day of like, oh, it sounds like hyperthyroidism. And it's like, excuse you. Like I had hyperthyroidism actually 2 years ago.
Did you eat any babies?
I sure didn't. Okay. And I didn't eat a stone or a piece of trash, like none of it. I get why.
Not a single cat.
Why? Yeah, it was just a kitty. No, I get why someone would say that, even though like it's a real dumb theory. But like it did feel like before I got diagnosed, it was an excessive hunger for sure. Like it wasn't totally insatiable. Like I would eventually get full, but like I was more hungry than usual and I was losing weight. So like, yes, in that sense, but I didn't crave anything other than food and I could eventually get full. So it's like, no there. And then there's also something called polyphagia, which is a very strong, incessant hunger that is very, very difficult to be satisfied no matter what you do. It is usually associated with uncontrolled diabetes. However, even though it is kind of a spiraling, uncontrollable hunger, it has never led to cannibalism, animal eating. I think as the furthest it could go is like maybe you would eat like chalk or something, like people who have pica eat, like if you've heard of that symptom where like people crave chalk and stuff, or like stuffing out of a cushion, like that's as far as it would go. So still not quite the same, and not the jaw size or throat size. So he's a mystery. Sorry about it.
Woof.
Everyone. I know. We shouldn't have ended on me.
I don't have an explanation except to say I think that I only have Mulder explanations for Terrari. Like, was he born on this planet?
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure?
Yeah, we don't know who these parents were that kicked him out as a teenager. Like, that's the story he gave, because he was like, oh, my parents couldn't afford to feed me anymore. But like, nobody had eyes on them. He just joined the freak show and was like, this is my story.
That man was not human.
Mm-mm. This is my vote.
I think he's an alien.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, actually. Monster, probably, but I just like putting my little alien on my shoulder. Something out of this world, I feel.
All I can think of is, funnily enough, all I can think of is you know how like Hercules was like kidnapped by Pain and Panic and brought to Earth and given like the bottle to make him almost human.
Uh-huh.
But there was like a drop that he didn't drink, so he had that insane strength. Like that's what happened with this guy. Like he was brought to Earth as this other creature, and somehow he was mostly human.
Mm-hmm.
Except
but with
for
some
his
differences.
digestive
I kind of
system.
like that. Yeah, it is a very like Hercules theory, but in a really gross, terrible way.
Also, like the fact that he like smelled. And like you could like see the stink lines coming off of him. Like,
I know.
He's lucky he was born. Well, here's the thing. Part of me is like, oh, he's so unlucky he was born then. Like, if he was born now, maybe we could help him for sure. But he's also lucky he was born then, because circus freaks, that was a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made some money.
Lot
He
of
like
people
was their
made a
spectacle.
living, yeah, as a freak in a freak show.
Yeah, I have no kind of scientific
Nope.
even knowledge or thought of like how this could have happened. Like my mind goes straight to something like Lovecraftian, like interdimensional pocket, and it was like some sort of like cosmic, just like funk that was just emanating off of him because things were going to a different dimension. I don't know.
On his planet,
On his planet, right?
the smell was normal.
They all have it
They all
radiating
smell
off
like
of
that.
them, and they're like, "What?" I actually think it's like perfume. Like, this is great.
Are there any like? But there were no. I mean, well, there wouldn't be photos, but there were like paintings, like drawings of this man. Like,
I mean, there was never a painting that was like, "This is Terrari," but there's paintings that have been theorized to be of him, of like a like wide-jawed, skinny man, like stuffing animals down his face. And like, I was going to include links to Ashley so that she could include some of them
Yeah,
if she
I'll put
wanted,
them in
but
the
like
video.
nothing ever was guaranteed to be like, and this is what he looked like, and this is the artist's rendering of him. It's always like, this might have been him. It kind of seems like the description, but it's very mysterious. Like, we just have the medical records and journal entries of people who worked with him and lived around him.
you know, I've got nothing. Straight up monster.
Monster.
Has to be.
Monster,
Yeah, monster.
the only explanation,
Yeah.
monster. I
Uh-huh.
feel like
That's
we
it.
were able to come up with something for both of our stories of like, well, maybe physics or like
No.
maybe it was an alligator who learned to walk on two legs. This man was a monster.
Straight
And
up monster. Yeah.
Maybe he was you know what? There's such thing as a sympathetic monster.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was a very sympathetic monster, but a monster
Yeah.
nonetheless.
I think he was somebody who was like, I don't want to hurt you, but I'm so hungry and I have to.
So I have to eat this baby. Well, that's all the time
Blech.
we have this week for Keep It Weird. Billy, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you visit our
Delight.
show.
And I always love being here. It's just,
Feels like home.
it does. Yeah, it really does.
It feels
We
like you
love it.
belong. Yeah. Thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us again and bringing us
Thank you.
another monster, even if Lauren's monster was more monster.
Eventually, I'll run out of monsters.
Oh, yeah. He's so bad. It's so bad. But it's Halloween.
It's Halloween. Listen, what do you want from us? We're bringing you scary stuff. This is the scariest thing you'll ever hear. This man who lived in the 1700s.
Sleep
and made
tight.
it come back anytime.
Don't let the bed bugs me.
Billy, do you have anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
No, nothing I'd really like to plug. I started an art account for my Instagram.
Yes, you did.
Just
Yes,
called
you did.
Billy Roach Art. I've been trying to work away on it, but like, you know, I get distracted by, you know, everyday life.
Yeah, I was going to say life, job.
As you do.
Yeah.
I have a quick plug on top of our usual stuff. Also, yeah, we will tag Billy Roach Art in everything for this episode. Go follow Billy. He is an amazing artist.
Incredible.
I think this comes out today, like the day that the episode drops. So Friday, October 11th. I am the guest over on the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast.
Oh.
And we got to chat about the movie Late Night with the Devil.
Oh,
Which
Ooh,
love that.
okay.
is fantastic.
I
It's a
really liked it. I just watched it last week, finally. Well,
Really?
It'll be like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when this comes out. But yeah, it took me so long. I like have no reason why it took me so long. I really loved it.
It's good. And it's a great horror movie to add to your watch list this season. So check out that episode if you want to hear us take on that movie with a funny and feminist lens.
Love that.
Which you wouldn't think that it's a feminist movie, but it kind of is when you look a little
You
deeper.
really
I
deep
can see
dive.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And make sure you're following our socials this month. We have our Halloween contests running, so you have a chance to win free merch. You have a chance to sponsor a segment of our show. You even have a chance, grand prize, to guest on our show. We have never done this before. We have had listeners as guests, but we've never had a competition where someone could win a spot on
excited.
our show. And all you have to do is like, comment on, and share our posts and send us photos of yourself wearing your costumes, carving your pumpkins, and celebrating Halloween. It's the easiest contest you'll ever participate in.
Yep. And we're here for it.
That's exciting.
And that's at Keep It Weirdcast. I forgot to say. At Keep It Weirdcast. And join our Patreon if you haven't already. We've got bonus episodes, free tarot card readings, and discounts on merch. And you'd be helping us produce our show and making sure that we keep coming back for more. So join us at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. How do we want to end the show? I feel like the only way to end it is to say the truth is out there.
The truth
is out there. The truth is out there.
It's out there. We just have to keep looking for it. What was that, Lauren?
It was the theme song said through a cat's meow, I think. No, it was nothing.
Meow, 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 meow.
See, it's kind of fun.
It actually is kind of fun. And we had 2 stories in which creatures ate cats. So
yeah. Well, who are we as people? Okay, well, good for us.
That's a good way to end the show. All right, everybody. Keep
it weird.